Hello everybody, and welcome to Amateur Cast. We're getting you and your replays to be casted for my entertainment, and hopefully to help you improve a little bit as well. I'm your host, ZookaMan, and we're going to be going into a ZVT. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our players. In the bottom right-hand side of the map, King Sejong Station, we have Panfilord as the red Zerg player, and his opponent on the opposite side of the map. We see KyoJiN as the blue Terran player. So looking over the matchup, what do we see in the matchup? What's going on right now? Well, from both sides of things, we are actually going to see KyoJiN going to be going out for a wall on his at his gas area. It's just a little bit weird, but the matchup in general is a little bit more esque of a early expansion for the Zerg player, as is mostly standard for most matchups. Terran player a little behind on the expansions. I have seen very good drop plays done in the mid game with it. I've also seen a lot of Hellions being used in the early game, which is just a good unit to get out. KyoJiN actually going to be going for a supply depot first. Isn't going to be pulling down his barracks, which makes me think he's probably going to be saving up for a CC first. What would be my best guess? But definitely in the matchup, the Terran player is going to be aggressive in the early game. Try to keep drone count down a little bit. And from the Zerg side of things, what the Zerg wants to do, especially in the early game, is just to get the drones out, get the economy going, and maybe towards the mid game get some aggression off. Not necessarily necessary, but hey, it's good to get it off if you can do so. Both players are going to be dropping down their natural expansions at fairly similar timing. KyoJiN probably could use to put down his barracks fairly shortly, and it is indeed coming down. So both of these players are going to be in a pretty decent position. Wouldn't mind seeing the orbital command start to come up in a little bit here as well. But besides that, both players seem to be going for fairly standard builds. Back home, we do have the spawning pool coming up from our Zerg player. He's going to be coming up with the extractor a little bit earlier, which means we are probably going to be seeing a little bit faster of metabolic boost. This could be used to do a little bit of aggression. Might be able to get out a few Zerglings and get a little bit of damage done to the command center, but they won't have speed for quite a while. No orbital command made in the main base quite yet. A little bit late there from KyoJiN, but I suppose I can understand it considering that he is going for that natural expansion, which is a little bit more important, and the muling energy isn't really going to be quite a big deal for a little bit anyways. He is going to be getting that now, however, so it's all going to be good in the end. Double Queen reduction has been started back home from our Zerg player, very standard, just getting out the drones. Nothing in the form of defense, but it doesn't look like we're seeing an early factor coming out from KyoJiN. He's going to be going for the double racks, which actually triple racks, which means we're probably going to be seeing a bio push in the mid game, probably off of stim. Might even see that off of +1, as opposed to the Hellion run bys. However, I kind of would have liked to see the Hellions a little bit more in this matchup, because of the fact that we do see that Zerg player isn't going to be going for roaches, doesn't have the spine crawlers up, so definitely a little bit of a missed opportunity there for not going with the Hellions. And besides, Hellions are just really good against Zerg early game, even if you're not being aggressive with them, because most of what we see from early game Zerg is the Zerglings, especially with the popular Zergling Bangling Muta style. Terran player is going to be coming up for his stim. We do have a couple of Zerglings coming up, just going to get a little bit of a scout off, not going to be able to do a whole lot of damage. Back home, metabolic boost is about to be finished up. Wouldn't be opposed to seeing a third base come out here for the Zerg player, and just to see him continue to grow up a little bit, keep that economy going up. Terran player, I wouldn't mind seeing him drop down a factory, start going up onto his gases, as he is medevac production, as well as sea chink / wood mine production, or anything along those lines. Higher tech in general should be coming out soon for him. I really don't think he should stay on bio too long, because that's a really big problem in the matchup, especially when you have a heavy Bangley opening. However, that's not what we're going to be seeing. We're just going to be seeing quite a bit of Zerglings going to be moving out across the map. A few are going to be going up into the main base. A few are sitting outside the natural. Just make sure there isn't going to be a third base or anything coming out from him. No third base has been taken yet from our Zerg player. Wouldn't mind to see that coming down. It is a little bit early there from the natural. Usually you want to get about that 6 to 8 minute mark. So definitely would like to see that fairly shortly. We do see the Baneling nest in the back of the main base, which usually you're going to be seeing Banelings coming up from the Zerg player at this point. But looking at the positioning of his Zerglings, I'm feeling that this might be a Baneling bust. There's a whole lot of Zerglings out on the map. There are a few more streaming out, which makes me think that it's going to be a little bit of a push in with that. And he might be able to get a little bit of damage. There isn't really a whole lot here besides the supply depots and a single bunker. The rest of the Bioforce is rather clumped up and is going to be pretty vulnerable to a couple of good Baneling splashes. Back home we do have that third base coming up, as well as the Banelings warping in up ahead. So we are going to be seeing the SCV actually going to be scouting it too. So I don't expect this to do quite as much damage. We don't really have a whole lot of AoE on the field, siege tanks or widow mines in their retrospect. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing siege tanks just for that extra little bit of power, just to make sure that you're alright. But we do see the layer tech going to be going into transition into that, so we're not going to be seeing it too. We're not going to be seeing a all-in sort of style with this. We're just going to be seeing a little bit of pressure to try to get out a little bit of damage. The Zerg player is going to be moving up into the natural. Banelings are going to be splashing off onto that bunker, but really not going to be able to get a whole lot of damage done. And the Bioforce is pretty much alive and kicking, so if that tries to go in there, unless a couple of Banelings come out, that's going to be, ooh, a lot of those Marines are in the front. There are quite a few Marauders in this army as well, but if those Banelings get good hits off, then that army is going to be in trouble, to say it the least. Terror player is going to be moving out at this point, but the Banelings are there. Is going to be loading up the bunker, and the Banelings are going to be getting up there. They are going to be slashing off onto the Marauders over there, as well as a few Marines over here. Going to be getting quite a few Marine kills there with that second splash. First splash pretty much nullified by the Marauders. +1/+1 coming out from our Zerg player and our Terran player, just about now finishing up from our Zerg player, as well as the combat shields. And I believe he already has, yep, he does have the concussive shells on his Marauders. Meanwhile, we're seeing our Zerg player transition off into the Spire tech, which is definitely a decent follow-up to this. You shouldn't have a whole lot of problems, or the Terror player shouldn't have a lot of problems rather dealing with the Mutalisk, as long as he remembers to put up a few missile turrets in order to help defend against that. Zergos are already trying to go into the main base. They could be poking up, deciding, nah, I don't really want to do that, and backing away again. But there are quite a lot of units here. We do have one of mine going to be planting itself over here. Is going to be getting a shot off on the Zerglings, and that's going to kind of discourage our Zerg player from continuing forward. But we do have that Spire finished up, which means Mutas should be hitting the field in just a little bit. He doesn't have the gas for it, but he is loading quite a bit of minerals. Doesn't have that second gas over at his third base. Could use to grab that, especially with Mutalisk coming out on the field right about now. I won't mind seeing him put in a round of drones over to that third base as well. And definitely wouldn't be opposed to seeing him take a fourth base at this point as well. Medevac production has been started from our Terran player, and he is going to have those overhead. A couple of Zerglings are going to be poking in, getting a little bit of scout off, are going to be setting off the Widow Mines, and going to be able to take them out fairly efficiently. You know, Overseer is going to be in a little bit of trouble there. All the Zerg player has to do is turn around and pretty much just murder that, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Yeah. Zerg player is going to stay out in the natural expansion. Going to be getting a little bit of a contain here, but that third base is up and operational over there, as opposed to where you would expect to see it, which is up to the north, or I suppose it's more like the northeast position up there. You see that +2 coming up from the melee units, which means that we're probably not going to be seeing a transition off into roaches or hydulas fairly shortly here. We are missing the zerglings, and the banglings definitely going to be used at least for a little bit longer, if not for the remainder of the game. We do have the 2-2 coming up from our Terran player at this point, and he's in a pretty decent position. Has a little bit of Marines clumped up here, but most of his composition is Marauders at this point, and he's focusing on getting his SCVs out. Speaking of which, 66 to 58 Harvesters in favor of our Zerg player, which isn't that surprising. We've already seen the Mutalisk pop up around here, going to be getting a little bit of damage done to the army. He's going to be able to snipe a couple of the Marines. However, there are going to be a few one-on-one shots that are going to be going off from those mutas and going to be pretty much chasing them away. Now we'd like to see missile turrets go up. We already have one in the main base. Wouldn't mind to see another one go up into the natural. Yep, we have a couple more in the natural. I believe the third is taken care of as well. Yep. So he's pretty well defended against this. The mules aren't really going to be able to do a whole lot unless he gets quite a bit more of them, and right now the missile turrets are just going to be able to take care of that. However, the Zerglings army coming up towards this third base to get a little bit of aggression down there. We do have a little bit of a Zergling force coming up into the natural expansion as well. However, we do have a double drop coming up over here into the third base, as well as the third base and the natural expansion. Going to be getting a little bit of drone damage. I don't think he killed very many. I think they were mostly evacuated. Yeah, no, definitely didn't kill very many, but he is going to sacrifice his third base for this, guys. Which I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. He doesn't really get a whole lot of drone kills. Yeah, he forced mining time, but his opponent did the exact same back. So, at best, they traded even. But I think the Terran player is going to take a little bit more damage here. Zerglings are in position over here to do a little bit of a run by, I think, but there is a Widowmine up here operational for killing these Zerglings. Quite a big make from both of our players at this point. Zerg player having a little bit of a gas issue, but the Terran player really not really having that excuse. Could use to drop down a few more barracks here to help kind of get his army up and operational, because a couple of Bangladesh forces are going to be going off onto the army, but definitely we would like to see some barracks added on from our Terran player. That is exactly what he's going to do, and want to see him continue to pump out units. Medevac production is alright for the moment, so definitely focus on bio, maybe sprinkle in a little bit more medevacs, maybe 2 to 4 more, just to make it a little bit more, powerful. Creep spreading and queens are both going to be taken out at this point, which is going to stop the creep spread for a little bit, and also force the 150 minerals out for additional ones. He's going to be moving out. Is actually going to get caught off in the middle of the map here. A couple of good bangling spots are going to be able to take out pretty much the entire army, actually. There's going to be a little bit of a split of an army here, but the rest of the units, including the Zerglings and the Banglings, well, Zerglings and the Mutas, there aren't any Banglings on the map right now. There will be in a little bit here, however, and I think that the Terran player forcing the cancel definitely can go back home and kind of savor the victory, get out some more units here. Do not necessarily agree with him pushing in, as there are quite a few Banglings coming out, and he really doesn't have the tankiness in his army to be able to take a few Banglings. So either he needs to split really well with this incoming fight, or he just needs to back out and count his losses. Well, Widow Mines are going to be getting planted off. A couple are possibly going to go off, but the Zerglings are going to be able to get this around. Bangling's going to be pretty much destroying everything here, and the rest of the units from the Zerg player will be able to clean up shop. However, the 2-2, almost 3-3 Marines are going to be able to take off a little bit of the unit pressure. He's going to be continuing up with some more units, but his forces are a little bit too divided at this point, especially with 10 more mutas on the way. Definitely do not think he can keep going and push into this. I kind of agree with him being able to force the natural, or not the natural, the 4th or 5th base, but definitely don't agree with him continuing to push in here, as he doesn't really have the units or really the resources to be able to keep up with his opponent if he loses an engagement. So we're going to be seeing him go up into the engagement, trying to get this third base. He's going to be stopped and pretty much going to be taken away. A couple medevacts are going to go down to this Mutalisk, which is not at all what you want to see, but we do have reinforcements coming in from our Terran player over here, and he's not going to be splitting his army at all, so we're going to be losing a lot of Marines right off there to the Banglings. And once again, guys, he doesn't really have enough to outproduce his opponent. He's losing the medevac coverage that he has, and he just really doesn't need to be here. He's going to lose his entire army here in a little bit, and the Zerg player is going to be in a better position, not just because he's going up onto a 5th base behind it, but just because he was able to defeat his opponent's army, and at this point he's essentially out macroing him, and there are a lot of Marines in this army, and not really very many splits. So definitely could use more AoE, more Marauders. That's going to be the big key here, being able to tank those Banglings or just kill them off. And Widow Mines are going to really help against the Mutalisk as well, but they're definitely going to be the most useful against Banglings because he doesn't need the Banglings in his face, especially if he can't really split as well as he should. So we're going to be seeing the 5th base going to be finishing up from the Zerg player at this point. He's going to be essentially moving his Mutas out. Yes, somewhere, wherever they are. They're going to come back over here to the natural expansion to help clear away the rocks. And I definitely wouldn't disagree with the Mutalisk poking out across the map, seeing if they can do a little bit of damage. We know the 3rd base is pretty well defended, but the natural expansion doesn't only have 2 missile turrets. The 3rd base, or the 4th base, excuse me, is completely undefended. No missile turrets are up defending against that. So I definitely would like to see him poke around, get a little bit of scouting off, if not a little bit of damage, because there are a few places where he can poke in and get a little bit of damage done. Maybe go in and snipe a few barracks or something like that. Definitely just to make this... I just inhaled cat hair, folks. Do not suggest it. But definitely would like to see Mutalisk be more active on the map, because right now they're just sort of sitting over the army. And Mutalisk are very, very good units if you use them to aggress, and especially for aggression, but sometimes you can use them for scouting as well, to kind of know what your opponent's doing, and that's kind of a good point. You don't want them to just kind of be sitting over your army the entire game, because they're not really essentially as useful as they possibly could be. Terran army looking very, very Marine heavy at this point. He does have 3-3, but those Banglings coming up are going to be able to take out a large number of his army if A, he can't split, B, he can't get the Widowmine shots off, or he just C, can't do either. The Bangling-centric force of his opponent might be able to just kind of tear through this, considering there's a lot of Marines here, guys. However, the Zerg player is going to be going up for the 4th base at this point, but the Terran player is going to be skirting around, going towards the 3rd. They're going to go, oh no, there's Zerg in my base, going to be falling back. But this base is essentially just sacrificed. He might be able to get back in time to help with the natural expansion, but once again, needs to be really careful, because he has a lot of Marines in this army, and there are a lot of Banglings on the map. A lot of Banglings on the map, especially with that 2-2. Definitely going to be doing quite a bit. There is going to be no splitting of the army, and the Banglings are going to be rolling in. There's going to be a little bit of a minor split there, but the Banglings are going to be able to go off. Lots of Marines spread out here, however. He looks like he's going to have a good enough arc to be able to defend against that. The 3-3 definitely coming into play here. Now the Terran player is going to be able to take a chance to go up onto the offensive. Would like to see him take his 4th base as well. Keep on with the medevac production and get some more Marauders out, as he has a lot of Marines, and definitely wouldn't be a bad thing to get some more Marauders, more tankiness up into this army. Hivesec is even coming out from our Zerg player back home. A little bit too late, however, because the Terran army is going to be moving out. I think he's probably going to be going for Ultralisk at this point. That would be my best guess. But the Ultralisk are going to be hitting the map rather late, all things considered, and the Terran player might... Well, he probably will get at least a base for his troubles. I mean, even the Banelings going to be splashing off on the units, not going to be able to get as many as they need. Is going to be splashing off on all of the Marines, however, and that's going to stop a lot of the force from being able to do damage. However, there's more ready to reinforce. A couple of bit more Banelings are going off on the army, but not really as much as he needs. I think the best thing for him to do right now is to just sack this base, get some units up, and beat his opponent, tear an opponent on the ground. By that, of course, we're going to be seeing a medevacs picked off here by the Zerg player. We're going to be able to push him back. Wouldn't be opposed to seeing a fifth base coming up on the field, as we do see the 5th base coming up from our Terran player a little bit aggressively in that fact, considering that he hasn't finished up his 5th base. And there are Zerglings and Mutas, which are two of the very high mobility units at this point. Mutas are coming in to the natural expansion. They are going to be able to get a little bit of damage off. However, there is going to be a large reinforcements of Marines that's pretty much going to be able to take care of that with the aid of the missile turrets. And all the Mutas are going to die, but I have a feeling that that was in the Zerg's plan. He was wanting to get rid of the supply so that he was able to get a little bit more units. I think that probably will be for an Ultralisk, so that he has the supply open so that he can go into Ultralisk, but I guess he doesn't really have the Ultralisk cavern down, so I suppose that's not necessarily the most effective way for him to do that. We're already seeing Adrenal Glands coming added up, and those Zerglings will be added with their speed. KyoJiN can be really low on the funds at this point, really just need to use his muling capabilities and try to keep up onto this 4th base. At the very least, keep up on the 4th base, if not the 5th base. Both would be fantastic, but there are units streaming out across the map, so he has to be really careful about this. Lots and lots of Zerglings, but there isn't really a whole lot to defend back home. This base might be in serious danger, especially with the Adrenal Glands going to be out finishing up. And that's pretty much dead, unless he can, unless he lifts it off. He's going to lift it off, but he's going to lose quite a few SCVs in the process. 48 workers killed over throughout this game from our Zerg player, and definitely showing his dominance in that factor. 50 to 20 harvesters in favor of him at this point. Zerg's army getting up into the natural expansion, going to be getting a little bit of damage done. There's a little bit of a force coming over here into the natural expansion, which makes me think it's a little bit of a base race between the two. But Cracklings can definitely ruin a base very well. So we'll have to see exactly what's going to happen there. I'm having a feeling the Terran player might have to kind of fall back here, as there are a lot of Zerglings in his base, and those things are doing a crud ton of damage, with 7 damage essentially twice every second, essentially, which is just crazy amount of damage getting done there. Terran army is going to be moving into natural expansion, going to be pretty much clearing that away, but not going to be able to do as much damage as he needs to at this point in order to win the game. I think he's realizing that as he decides to fall back. However, the point to be made here is that the Zerg player did destroy the entirety of everything in the main base from Kyo, which means that he lost all his tech structures, all his upgrading structures, everything is just pretty much gone for him, and the Zerg player still has most of his tech so that he was able to reproduce. Maybe he's not able to do it as efficiently because he doesn't have the bases, but he definitely has the tech to be able to do that. Zerg's are going to cut off here finally from the Terran army. What is he going to Terran army move in to the main base? There are going to be Banelings added on here, but they are not going to be able to finish up. Oh, maybe. Zerglings are going to be cleaned up, but the Banelings are just going to be finishing up. Oh, Banelings! Banelings going to be going on. The stem going to be going up to kind of stop that. They're going to be seeing a few splashes come out, but nothing too serious here. Banelings going to be finishing up on the rest of the Terran army, and in a glorious spray of acid, the Zerg is victorious. So, what can we learn from the game? First of all, let's look at KyoJiN's side of things. I think one of the things that really hurt him was in the mid to late game when he's having problems with his production. He didn't really have as many production facilities as he possibly can, which is one of the reasons we have a problem with the bank, is that you aren't able to spend your resources efficiently. And that's definitely one of the problems I think that he had. He kept well up on his upgrades. He had a decent amount of medevacs. I think one of the biggest things that could have helped him is either, one, adding in more Marauders to your army to make it a little bit easier, to make it so that the Banglings are a little bit less effective, because they have to, I think it's like 3 or 4 for Marauders as opposed to 1 or 2 for Marine. So definitely going to be doing a little bit of help with that. Also, AoE, keeping AoE in your army. Siege tanks, definitely a very popular choice against Banglings, because you're able to have a large distance between you and the Banglings and be able to take care of them. So that's what I would suggest. I would suggest adding in a few siege tanks, and see if that's what you want to do. The Widow Lines work to a certain extent, but if there's a large number of Zerglings and a small number of Widow Mines, they can pretty much just go in and snipe those off. Now, looking at the Zerg side of things, he did have a little bit of a deficit in his upgrades. He was only on Tier 2 at the end of the game. He did get Adrenal Glands. I like that he put the Zerglings out across the map to be able to do damage in his opponent's main base, because his opponent was unable to stop him. I like that he didn't stay on the mutant production longer than he needed. I would like to see the Hive that was being researched after that, seeing the Ultralisk Cavern drop down, and go for Ultralisk as well, because I think that would make a little bit more potency into his army, make it a little bit better. Not that he necessarily needs it, but if his opponent was going for a higher number of Marauders, the Ultralisk would be able to take those out. So besides that, and making sure to take care of your bank and keep up your supply, I think I saw the Terran player take a few supply blocks. Nothing major. As well as keeping up on your base. Some general stuff added to what I've already put out already. So guys, if you enjoyed the cast, please like, comment, subscribe, share, as per usual. And, one quick thing I want to get out to you guys. I know that not all of you would be interested in this, and if you aren't, I'll see you in the next cast, but there's a little bit something else I want to let you guys know of. I don't really know exact dates, but I am going to be doing a little bit of a tournament over the summer, probably sometime in June. I'm going to try to see if I can get that worked out with my co-caster, but it's probably going to be like a weekend in June, and do a little bit of tournament. I haven't decided any details once again, guys, but I wanted to get you the information that I have. And if you're more interested or anything, let me know in the comments below and stuff like that. So, besides that, folks, I think that's everything. So, this has been ZookaMan, and we'll see you on the next cast.